through the back entrance, past the drunk tank where some guy was yelling about his rights. At intake, they took my phone, wallet, and shoelaces, while I kept begging for one phone call to arrange someone to get Lynn. The officer behind the desk just said I'd get my call later, and pushed me toward the holding area, where the metal detector started beeping. They made me take off my belt too, and then walked me down a hallway that smelled like bleach and vomit. The concrete room had 3 other kids already sitting on metal benches bolted to the walls. One had a black eye and kept spitting blood into a paper cup. Another was asleep with his head against the wall. The third kid looked at me and asked what I was in for, but I couldn't even form the words to explain this nightmare. How do you tell someone you're being framed for stalking while your little sister is home with a predator? I just shook my head and sat in the corner trying not to cry, as I pictured Lynn hearing stepfather's footsteps coming down the hall, the way his breathing changed. When he'd been drinking, the specific creak of her bedroom door that I'd memorized from all the times I'd rushed in to stop him. Hours passed with nothing but the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead and the occasional guard walking by to check on us. Finally, around 4, they called me for processing, which meant fingerprints first, rolling each finger in black ink and pressing them onto cards while the officer complained about having to work overtime. Then photos against a height chart, holding a placard with numbers I couldn't even read through my tears. More forms to fill out, asking about medical conditions, emergency contacts, previous arrests, which was none, but they didn't believe me. I told every single person about Lynn being in danger. The intake officer, the fingerprint tech, the photographer, the nurse, who checked my vitals. Each one said it wasn't their department and someone else would handle it. The nurse at least wrote something down when I explained about the abuse, but then just filed it with the rest of my paperwork. They gave me an orange jumpsuit that smelled like industrial detergent and was too big so the pants dragged on the floor. Back to the holding cell where time moved like molasses, and the black eye kid had been replaced by someone who wouldn't stop talking about how this was all a misunderstanding with his ex-girlfriend's car. Around 6 p.m., they brought me a sandwich that looked like cardboard with mystery meat, but I couldn't eat it anyway. The guard said I'd see a judge in the morning, which meant Lynn had to survive the whole night alone with him. There was absolutely nothing I could do from this cell, except imagine all the terrible things that were probably happening right now. The talking kid finally shut up when lights dimmed to this sick yellow color that made everything look diseased. I barely slept, just staring at the ceiling tiles, counting them over and over while running through every Discord conversation I'd ever had, trying to figure out who would do this. Who had the username SketchyFox362 with different numbers after the hashtag? Who knew enough about Annie to target her, but also knew about our school? The fluorescent lights never turned off completely, just dimmed enough to make shadows, but not enough to actually sleep. Every time I started to drift off, I'd picture Lynn's face when stepfather opened her door and I'd jolt awake with my heart racing. Morning came with instant oatmeal that tasted like paste, and a guard telling me my public defender would arrive soon. I asked again about calling someone for Lynn, and he just shrugged and said to tell the lawyer. Another hour of waiting, and then finally they brought me to a small room with a metal table and 2 chairs. Randy Hunter walked in carrying a briefcase and actually looked me in the eyes instead of through me, like everyone else had. He was young, maybe late 20s, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit right and had coffee stains on his tie. He sat down and opened a yellow legal pad, then asked me to start from the beginning. I explained about Lynn and the Discord discriminators, how Sketchy Fox 3